have Upasna Dash, founder of JBC, Jajabor Brand Consultancy. You're in for a treat for all the audience. How did this name, Jajabor, come up? She started this firm in 2017. Several recognitions, some of the recognitions which are very, very notable. PR 30 under 30. We're going to talk a little bit about that. EM 40 under 40, right? And WEF, Global Shaper. Upasna has spent 12 years creating and distributing powerful stories for the largest brands, unique startups, VCs, policy think tanks, and more. Through her work, brands and individuals have been able to impact policy, create new categories, sell to millions, raise funds, and most importantly, positive impact to the society, or positive impact for the society. Having worked with the world's best founders, investors, grassroots heroes, sports legends, CEOs, icons, and more, Upasna's goal is to help people discover the power of storytelling to cause good in the world, which I really love. Her portfolio of work includes Google, Coca-Cola, Microsoft, Oyo, InShorts, FreeCharge, 250 plus startups, 30 plus VCs, and hundreds of inspirational individuals across sports, business, film, fashion, policy, and much more. So, welcome to the show, Upasna. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you for inviting me. I'm so excited to be here and looking forward to this. Thanks, Sid.
Fantastic, fantastic. Upasna, so let's go ahead and kick it off. What I would like to know is give the audience a little bit of introduction about where you're from and which cities did you grow up, which schools did you go to? Just give us a little bit about your early life.
Great. Just like the name of my company, Jajabor, which means nomad. I've been a bit of a nomad. I was born in the city called Ranchi in India, which was a small city back in Bihar. And I lived there till I was about 4 years old. And then my parents moved to Pune. And, when I was in Ranchi, I obviously couldn't speak Hindi or English very, very well. I was this burning kid that people made a lot of fun of. And then I came to Pune and, my parents put me in a better school, and I just really struggled to speak English and Hindi. But that's where sort of my journey with storytelling began. And I did my schooling in Pune. I went to St. Helena School. I also did 2 years of junior college in Ferguson College, and just really lived the life of a student in Pune. And then I went to Singapore, and I was there for about 3-4 years. I studied, I dabbled in startup, and after that I went to the UK. I went to Cardiff Business School, and I lived there, worked there, and then eventually made my way back to India in 2012, and ended up living in Delhi, Gurgaon, NCR. So I've lived in about 6-7 cities so far in counting. That's a little bit about me, and I happen to originally be from Orissa, but I never lived there.
Awesome, awesome. What a diverse experience, living in several parts of the world all by yourself as a student, studying in various different institutions in various different countries. I think that is one of the core commonalities of entrepreneurs, putting yourself in difficult situations and overcoming those. Being in these, relocating, one of the things which I've seen in entrepreneurs as a commonality is people have lived in various different places. They have a diverse set of experience, what they bring to the table. And I think that is what you have in your early life, which has helped you, is what I think. Do you think those lines, or what are your thoughts?
Oh, absolutely. I'm so glad you brought that up. And the thing is, I never designed for it to be that way. I didn't just, as a kid, be like, go live in these different cities. I was really scared. I remember being this 18-year-old kid who landed in Singapore alone with 2 bags. And I'd never really been out of the country alone. I was really scared. But that's really what built me. And today I feel like my life is an amalgamation of so many cultures and people. And it always starts out as scary, but that's honestly like being driven into my DNA as an entrepreneur, to be okay in new, uncomfortable situations, one. And number two, just seek inspiration from challenges, people, and situations that are so different from yours. I still travel a lot, I before COVID at least, because I feel like there's better learning than just meeting people and being out there in real life. So absolutely, living in all these places has shaped my life and my entrepreneurship journey to a very large extent.
Awesome. This is going to be a very easy question for you to answer. The next one, which I'm going to ask you, if you're put in a room where there are 100 people who you've never met, what would you do?
I'd love it, and I'd like to talk to each and every one of them.
Awesome.
And that's something I love doing even today. I feel like the best way to grow as an entrepreneur is you have to keep meeting and interacting with things that have nothing to do with your life. And you know what? Inspiration can come to you from anywhere. I remember once being, I think, in a cab in Hong Kong, and the guy wasn't really sort of speaking normal English, but he tried articulating his life to me, and when he did, I actually came away with an campaign idea, right? And like that one cab ride in Hong Kong changed the way I thought about things. So I am greedy and hungry for meeting people and new experiences. I think it's the best thing you can do as an entrepreneur.
You made a very, very interesting point. You know what? Putting in those kind of situations, and if you have a learning mindset, that is where innovation brokering happens. You're picking up ideas and planting those ideas in a project or something what you are thinking about. Amazing. Very well said. Awesome. So question for you is around your early life. You mentioned that you were in Ranchi, and from Ranchi you moved to Pune, and you weren't speaking English. You were speaking your mother tongue or language, which is very local out there. What was the language what you were speaking out there?
I'm Odia, and I'm speaking.
Okay.
And of course, very limited people spoke Odia. So I really struggled.
Okay.
And I've heard the stories. I don't remember it clearly, but I was made fun of in school, and I think people around me were just worried. My parents were worried, saying, "Oh my God, how is she going to keep up in school?" And I couldn't read a newspaper and all of that. So that's how it began. And I think the story of how I eventually learned how to speak Hindi and English is quite interesting as well. But yeah, I grew up speaking a very hyper-local language in a very small city.
Wow. The question was around how did you overcome your communication barrier? And what are the steps? What are some of the things what you did? Because majority of our talent pool is from tier 2 cities. I want them to take some nuggets from your conversation. How did you overcome? What led to the success where you've been able to, or you have prepared yourself to communicate so flawlessly?
Got it. Okay, so very interesting. Like I said, couldn't speak. And then, when I sort of moved to Pune, I was lucky enough to actually live with my grandfather and my father. And, my grandfather was a fantastic orator. He's been a huge inspiration in my life. And my dad was a great reader. And I remember my grandfather actually gifted me a storybook, and I think it's for Little Women. And it just looked fascinating, and I couldn't read it at all. And I was just like,
wow.
My grandfather sort of read out some bits of it to me, and I just fell in love with that world. And I was like, imagine being able to get transported to these worlds just by reading. So I better learn how to do that. So I actually started learning to speak English properly because I started reading storybooks, right? And for me,
wow. Okay.
And that's honestly where I think my love with storytelling began, because I was like, imagine the power of words where you could be sitting, in Georgia right now, Sid, and like I said, if I read to you a poem about Trichy, I can transport you back there. All I have to do is describe, the beautiful landscape and the people and the smell, and there you are. And I said, this is magic. I got to do it. And that's truly how I began. I spent all my time in reading storybooks, not study books, storybooks, from Harry Potter to fiction to classics to everything. So it didn't feel like work to me. And the more I read, the more I think I became well versed with English, the better I sort of spoke. And that's something that I do till date. And fortunately in my job, I've happened to work with a lot of young people. Till today in India, there are people who sometimes may sort of need support, even though they live in tier 1 cities, get better with English skills, etc. Reading books is, I think, one of the best ways to do it. That's what I did.
Fantastic. Are you, and specifically when you're in a profession of storytelling, do you still have the habit of reading books, or do you still continue to do that?
Yes, you can read you can look at my bookshelf back there. I'm actually in my office, and like I said, I am constantly picking up books and reading. And what's also really good is that, today, because of, the way social media is and how accessible
Yeah.
content is, right? It's so easy to do that. So, that's actually my stress. But every couple of minutes, in fact, if not hours, I'm like on the phone reading an article that I think is fascinating. And
Very nice.
no, and also I think I'm lucky that my job is to understand businesses and create storytelling. So by virtue of that, I'm constantly reading about different businesses and different countries, etc. But
Wow.
I read like I breathe till date. It could be articles,
Awesome.
anything. I live for reading, and I think once you find joy in something, it doesn't feel like work. For me,
Yeah.
storytelling is that, and it started honestly with books, with storybooks.
That is so powerful. So powerful. Awesome. So while you were in school, how did you, so would you call yourself an introvert or an extrovert? Based on the first question, I felt that you are an extrovert. What I asked you, if you're in a room filled with 100 people, unknown people, you're an extrovert. But according to you, what are you?
Oh, fully extroverted. I grew up
You're
like that. In fact, I remember I did an aptitude test in college, and the result was overtly social, which worried my
Mhm.
parents a lot. But I think as you grow older, that changes because I'm in the profession of PR and storytelling. I'm very comfortable with people. I love
Yeah.
meeting them. But I think as you grow older, which I have, want to sort of shrink your circle, really invest time and energy in the right people.
Yeah.
So I've become very conscious of that today. When I'm
Got it.
not working, etc., I have a select group of people that are very close in my life, and I spend time with them. But if you put me in a room with 100 people, like you said, I would thrive. I would love it. So definitely an extrovert.
Yeah. Awesome. Awesome. So are there any foundational elements which help you become an extrovert during your early life? Like in school, were there any teachers or mentors or coaches? Maybe it's your parents who pushed you in that particular direction, right? So I'd like to know what are some of the was there anybody instrumental in you having this kind of a personality, or were there some skills which you actually attained while you were doing that, while you were in school?
Got it. Sid, I lost your video again.
You lost my video again. All right. I am so terribly sorry about that. I think there is, yeah, you should be back again. That is, there's a small challenge what I had. Okay, good. Can
Um,
you?
yes. Lost you again. Okay, now it's back on. Great. Okay, so that's a really good question, and I think one of the biggest forces in my life is actually my dad. As
Yeah,
as someone who sort of grew up in India, etc., I was so lucky to have somebody like my father, who himself was like this big extrovert who loved reading, etc. But he really pushed me to go out there and just do these crazy things. I remember when I
yeah,
said I want to go abroad to study, everybody was like, "Are you crazy?" I actually have a younger brother. They're like, "No, no, no, you shouldn't send your daughter abroad. You should send your son abroad." And my dad said, "Why? If she wants to go abroad, then
wow,
she wants to chase a dream, and she should." So he, I think,
yeah,
played the biggest role in doing that. He gave me the stability and confidence to feel that I can go out and do something. He was also obviously sort of very disciplined and strict, and he said, you have to own your failures and successes. He was always there as a sounding board, but I think he really sort of gave me that first push to say, go out, go into the world and figure it out. I remember, when I was like sitting in the plane, I was actually going to Singapore alone. I didn't have my parents coming with me,
yeah,
some family emergency. So I was literally crying at the aircraft, and I said, I don't want to go, and I need my parents, and I called my dad, and my dad was like, "You asked for it, go do it," and that really
yeah,
sort of pushed me. And I think the other thing is, which is why I recommend people sort of stepping out of their comfort zones. Step out of your hometown, step out of your familiar circle, because that's where growth is. Growth is on the other side of very uncomfortable situations. I think that played the biggest role. I mean, I was living alone in different countries every 2 years. My friend circle was changing, and I grew up in a fabulous city like Pune, where I had so many friends, and suddenly I was in Singapore, and I just had to like start life again. That's really where I think I developed the skill of being an extrovert, because I had to create new bases every couple of years. And I put myself in those situations. I had friends saying, "Why are you doing this? You just got it right in Singapore, and you have this fantastic family and friend circle, and you're leaving." I said, "Yeah, because I want to grow." So I think in one line, put yourself in situations that are uncomfortable but great for growth. That's one of the best things that you can do. And of course, it's great to have family support you to do this, because they are like the early shapers in your life. The last thing I'd say here is that it's never too late to change or extend, right? You can wake up at 40 or 50
Agree.
and say, "Hey, you know what? I want to live my life differently today," and I start now. So I add, I think, more things to my personality every single day, because human beings should always be evolving. So I think you can be an introvert your whole life, and
Awesome.
100% be an extrovert, and vice versa.
Very well said. Very well said. Put yourself in uncomfortable positions, and that's where growth is. So very well said, Upasna. Talk to us a little bit about, so you completed your master's program, you came back to India, you took up your first job, and talk to us from your first job to the entrepreneurial journey. How did that happen? And did you intentionally did you want to become an entrepreneur? Is that what you thought? Or how suddenly you decided that one fine day, hey, I want to become an entrepreneur? What happened? Talk to us a little bit about it.
Okay. So interesting story. I never thought I was going to be an entrepreneur. Never did that thought cross my mind. People around me said, "Hey, you should give it a shot." I was like, not for me. So I started my first job. I was really lucky to work with some fantastic brands, like I said, Google and Coca-Cola, fantastic people to work with. But I'm somebody, like I said, who needs to constantly keep evolving and changing. So I felt like, hey, I want to do something different. So from there, I decided to actually just, explore startups. So startups in India in 2015 were just about starting. Again, it was very uncomfortable and new. People thought, again, I was nuts. Like, why would you leave working with brands like Coca-Cola and
Yeah.
Google and go into this new startup category, right? But I was like, the worst that can happen is I'll come back to my corporate job, but let me go do something new. And that's where I really sort of got a front row seat to like some brilliant founders and companies. Vitesh Agarwal of Oyo was one of them. Countless founders, and I think again I didn't plan it, but it was almost like an amoeba effect. I was just imbibing this DNA of doing innovative things, taking risks, all of that. And then I think after a point, while I really enjoyed my work, I realized that I felt storytelling was way more powerful than what I was doing at that time. I felt like I wanted to just rewrite the rules. I had a certain vision of the way I looked at storytelling, and I wanted an opportunity to do that. I had no experience, no backing, but I said, I have to at least try. Again, I always think worst scenario, I will fail desperately, and hopefully I'll get a job again.
Yeah.
Let's do it. So that's when I left my job, and I had no safety net, no plan, no clients, nothing, and nobody
Wow.
around me had, like in my family, had done a business. My parents are both people who sort of worked and studied, so I didn't know who to ask any of these questions to. But again, my dad was like, take that risk if you feel it, just work really hard. And we'll see. And that's literally how I started my journey, on one couch with one employee, and I think I had like 5,000 rupees in my account. And I didn't till a year realize I was an entrepreneur, until somebody at like some event said, "Hey, you're an entrepreneur." I said, "Oh yeah, I am. I didn't know that." um, Till then I was just like, man, I'm here to get clients, do storytelling. So no straight path to entrepreneurship, I think, but it's a way of life, I feel, and that's
Yeah.
what happened. And it just felt like a natural evolution to me at some point, where I really wanted to just do things that mattered in a way that I wanted to do them, and that's how it began. No plans ever. So I think entrepreneurship
Wow.
can just happen to you. There are lots of people who planned it. I was not one of them.
Yeah. That's awesome. So you were in a very good job working for a company, and you decided that you're just going to quit. Is that what you did? Or you said, okay, let me think through this. Let me conceive this idea, build some framework around it, and then I'll take a jump. What did you do?
I had no preconceived idea. I had no plan. I didn't have a brand name. I just quit. And,
Awesome.
and I don't know if that's great
Yeah.
advice, but I literally woke up one day and I said, you know what? If I don't try it, I'm going to regret it for the rest of my life. Yes, I
Yeah.
don't know the path. And, I think there's a very famous anecdote in a documentary where, to reach from, say, New York to Washington, right? You don't, in the middle of the
Yeah.
night, you don't need to see the whole road. When you sit in the car, you don't see the road all the way to Washington, right? You put your lights on and
Yeah.
you keep seeing the next 100 meters. And just by seeing the next 100 meters and 100 meters, you eventually will reach Washington. And I'm like, that's how I have to look at it. I don't know what's going to happen a year, 2 years down the line. I know what's going to happen 2 days,
Wow.
2 weeks later. Let me just go with
Yeah.
that. So that's what I did. And yeah, did not plan for it at all. And again, a lot of people were shocked. They were like, "What is wrong with you?" That's why I didn't have any savings. I think I blew up my savings on like a daughter trip or something. And in hindsight, I was like, "Oh my god, I shouldn't have done that." But that's also what taught me how to just perform in really mad situations. So I'm glad I started
Damn.
the way I did. I would not change a thing about that journey.